Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again. Believe in a power greater than what you are going through. When you don't know what to do, keep breathing.
That's right. When you don't know what to do, just keep on breathing. From the City of Angels in Los Angeles, welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I'm Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver at caregiverdave.com, along with my lovely co-host, best-selling author and former mayor of Grover Beach in Central California, Debbie Peterson, also coming to you live and on demand 24/7 on numerous syndicated radio and podcast networks on 30 audio and video platforms, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Vimeo, Stitcher Radio, Spotify. The list. There we go. I was looking for that L. The list goes on and on. In fact, we're proud to be voted #1 caregiver podcast on FeedSpot out of thousands and #1 on the top 50 of Player FM. And we have an especially exciting show planned for you today. Steve Melman received a master's degree in clinical psychology. He's a licensed professional counselor, a licensed marriage and family therapist. He's been in the mental health field for over 40 years and has a successful private practice for over 25 years, assessing clients with a variety of issues: depression, bipolar, substance abuse, couples and their struggles, including parenting and helping children and adolescents. In addition, he has experience and expertise in conducting presentations, critical incidents, stress debriefings, and management consultations. There's nothing this man cannot do. So he's our guest today. But before we get started, I want to take this moment to thank my last week's guest, Bard Wouters, a Taoist therapist from Holland, author of 7 books, known from interviews on Dutch national TV. And just a reminder, you can watch or listen to that interview and all our interviews, including this one, on our membership website, caregiverdave.com, or any of our other 30 global audio and video networks that I mentioned earlier, like iHeartRadio, iTunes, etc. All right, enough of that. Steve, so great to have you on the Caregiver Dave Show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
I always like to ask my guests, just who is Steve Melman, and why was he placed on this earth?
Well, I'd like to make it a concise story, but like everybody else, everybody has.
You only have 30 minutes.
Okay. Well, everybody has challenges, and I certainly had mine. And school was not easy for me. And when I met those challenges, I said, "Well, maybe I'm here to help others meet their challenges and to set and accomplish goals in their life."
That sounds great. Now, do you have any caregiving responsibilities or experience? Because all our audiences are mostly burned out caregivers.
Yes.
How they can relate to you.
Yeah. Well, I didn't reach 70 years old without having losses and being a caretaker. And so I certainly had that. Not that I wanted that.
You're not out of the woods yet. Just wait.
No, I know that. And then, of course, in my private practice and working with the federal government, one of the things I used to do, which was to help people, caregivers, and help people through their grief and loss. So, yeah, I've got that.
A lot of that going around. So you've got a book, and I think your book is to say that word, clinicians?
Clinicians.
Is that the right word?
That's the right word.
I didn't know how to pronounce it because it's clinic and then IANS. So you talk.
We'll help each other.
You're teaching the experts, so to speak. So you must be an expert yourself. So let's start with stress management, because 30 to 40% of caregivers will actually die before their loved ones do because of the stress, and many more will become sicker than the ones they care for. The lucky ones, and need a caregiver of their own. So what is the best way for a burnout caregiver, or even someone in normal life, because all caregivers are just, regular people, and now they put on their caregiver hat, and they're dealing with the same things they were dealing with as normal people. So, which is stress. Everyone deals with stress.
Mm-hmm. So everybody's got to find what works for them. But let me help a little bit. You've got to take care of yourself. You've probably heard that before. If you don't take care of yourself, then nobody else will. So you've got you've got to. I also use this word a lot: resiliency. But to practice resiliency, you got to, as you're taking care of yourself, and it's not selfish that you're taking care of yourself. You would say, is it selfish?
You said it's unselfish, right?
Unselfish.
A lot of people think it's selfish to take care of yourself.
No, but you wouldn't say, well, gee, I'm not gonna eat because that's selfish, or I'm not gonna get 8 hours of sleep or some sleep. That would be selfish. I need to be a caregiver 24/7. Well, and oftentimes I go to the ludicrous. I want people to go, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, good.
All right, stress management.
So I'm headed there. So stress management is taking care of yourself. It's finding your interest in hobbies and to partake in them. To be with family and friends, all those help to rejuvenate ourselves, to go back to being caregivers, but in a way that's healthy for us.
Yeah, well, that's very good. The Bible also says, love others as you love yourself. I mean, if you're not even loving yourself and doing the basic stuff, how are you going to love anybody else, right?
That's right.
So why do you think many people die from stress? And why do you think many more need a caregiver from not managing stress? What is it about stress that is so dangerous? How does it damage us? How does it kill us?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try to answer that by saying, if you had two people and all the stresses were happening to both individuals, and one is not dealing with it very well at all, and the other person is kind of rolling with it. And so I could give you another analogy. If you were offered the choice of being two trees, one is a mighty oak tree or weeping willow. And you say, well, I want to be that mighty oak tree. I go, well, that's great. Except in high wind. And what happens to the mighty oak tree in high wind? It gets uprooted.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but with the weeping willow, no matter which way the wind blows, the weeping willow is adaptable. And that's...
I didn't know that. I thought the mighty oak was mighty.
Yeah, it is, except in strong wind.
Because they're so old that branches break and limbs break.
That's right.
Uprooted.
Yes.
Got to be flexible.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to be flexible. So if we're talking about two different people and how they manage stress, that's how it's about how they manage stress.
And some people who are 50 or 60 or 70 years old don't look their age. They look younger. But then other people look much older. I mean, my father died at 63. He lived a rough life, alcoholic and so on. And he looked like he was 93. And yet my grandmother, who died at 97, looked like she was 65. What does that?
You could say that magic word, stress. Yeah. And again, it's how we manage it. And so it really is the person who is adaptable. They're flexible. They allow things to roll off of them as much as they can. They have a sort of an agenda, but they don't let the agenda rule them as much as they can. They manage the agenda.
I mean, I manage stress very well, but I really can't take credit for it. It's the way God kind of made me. I have a good temperament, that can bend in the wind, a good personality. I have patience, not too much patience, but enough patience. And I have faith. I think if you don't have faith, it's really hard to manage stress. Because I believe that all things work out eventually for them that love God. And that, if you're going through a trial, just wait. God will turn it around. I mean, that's how I get through it.
Yeah. And don't gloss over what you were using partially, which is humor.
Humor. Yes, I love humor.
Yeah.
I did some stand-up comic at the Harvard Club of Boston one time, and I was very proud of myself because that was on my bucket list before I died. And I did 4 minutes of stand-up, and everybody laughed, and it made me feel really, really good because the hardest thing in the world is making someone laugh. And if anybody wants to see that, just Google Dave Nassani and Harvard Club of New York, I think.
Very good. Yeah.
And you can laugh with me. Debbie, welcome to the show. And
Well, thank you.
I know you're having internet issues, but you have any questions for our wonderful guest, Steve?
Well, I'm trying to remember how we got in touch with you, and I'm thinking it was through the usual National Publicity Summit that we go to sometimes. But and I don't remember what it was that convinced us that we needed you on the show. So what did you pitch to us that made us want to have you on the show?
Yeah, why did we put you on the show, Steve?
Yeah, I think it was the sandwich board that I was wearing that day.
Oh, what did your
That would have done it.
say?
That would have done it. Creativity, yeah.
Well, I think it was the fact that yes, I'm a clinician with over 40 years of experience in dealing with trauma and grief. And as I was telling Dave, at 7 years old, you can't escape without having to be a caregiver yourself and taking care of grief and loss and so on. And I was working with federal agencies and helping them, federal employees, deal with the loss and grief and being caregivers themselves.
Yes, yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with organization and time management, right? I mean, when I became a caregiver, you have so many things on your plate to remember. And, I've been accused of driving a trash can because sometimes, my car slowly turns into a trash can. I got to clean it out. Sometimes my office turns into a trash can. I got to clean it out, but it slowly goes back to the way it was. So, I thought I was organized, but apparently I'm not. Time management, very important. If I didn't have this wallet, this phone that's got a calendar in here, I don't know, I'd be like a dementia patient. Mm-hmm. So do I have anything to worry about, or is this necessary for time management?
Well, it's whatever you find that works for you, whether it's time management. We were talking about stress management before. I can't emphasize that enough. The older we get, the wise person, the wise person is the one who becomes introspective. And they're constantly asking and answering the question, as I've gotten older, what wisdoms have I acquired? What works for me? What do I know about myself in terms of how do I deal with time management, stress management, values and faith and humor and all that helps us navigate through the world and through life.
Well, you look pretty good. I mentioned when you came on, you just had the big old grin, smile, and I'm trying to look for wrinkles. Don't see many wrinkles, just a little bit of gray. How old are you?
I just turned 70 in March.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I'm 1 year older than you. So we look good. Pardon, Debbie?
Yeah, we look good.
I said he does 70 well.
Yeah.
And I actually do have a question now about stress. And I find as I age, I'm less able to cope with the same levels of stress that I could when I was younger. Now, when I talk to my friends, they say the same. Is that fairly standard? And any suggestions on how to, I guess, pare it down a bit so that you're not, I just become more impatient. I become crankier.
Okay. All right. So that may be something to look at, that lack of patience. And so I try to keep it consistent. So as we continue to be introspective, to figure out what's worked for us in the past, to don't wipe that slate clean and we start all over. No, templates that we used in the past can help us in the future to deal with stress. So oftentimes I'll say, well, gee, in the past, this was really stressful. And how did I deal with that? And what I'm going through now is stressful is something else that happened in my world. How did I deal with that? And how can it help me today? To take a look at. So I'm dealing with this from the prism of being impatient. So what do I need to do to get a grip? To be, take a breath, be mindful, take a time out. Sometimes that's a really good something to use as a caregiver. Is sometimes we do have to, we teach kids, but in a non-productive way about taking time outs. And we say as parents with clenched teeth, go sit in the timeout chair.
So that's great advice.
Yeah, but that's not the great advice. Is how we said that. Instead, what we want to do is teach kids that we all have emotions. and how to deal with our emotions in a healthy and productive way. And so don't lose sight of that as adults too. Sometimes we need to take timeouts.
And timeout isn't punishment. Timeout is timeout.
Yes, to rejuvenate ourselves. To get a grip.
Timeout can win a football game, right?
Yeah, yes. And that's exactly right. If you think about it, a timeout, we were so focused, we needed a timeout to collect our thoughts, collect our emotions.
Yes. So we certainly are living in a chaotic world. That's in your book as well. But was the world always this chaotic? I mean, I think back to the cavemen. It's got to be pretty chaotic when you're hungry and you're hunting for your food, and it's either fight or flight. And
dinosaurs
were certainly chaotic during World War II. And yes. I can't think of a time that time was not chaotic. Can you?
No. But some of the things we're doing that doesn't, and maybe it's true in other generations too, but some of the current things we're doing doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. That we lost our common sense.
Yes, well, I think the president is trying to bring back common sense. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. I just want you to have common sense, whatever you are. Yeah. And I wrote a book about common sense not being very common.
Very true. Very true.
I had someone say to me the other day, maybe we need more uncommon sense.
Yes, there you go.
Right. I like that.
So burnout, obviously, everyone burns out. I know many professions are famous for burning out, like nurses. Caregivers are right up there as well. Mm-hmm. Sometimes cops burn out. Sometimes pastors burn out. What makes us burn out? Is it our fault if we just not doing things right, or can we avoid burnout, or can we not avoid burnout?
I think the more we know about what's going on, the more it can be of help to us to be proactive and to see burnout is headed our way, and how to I'm always a big believer in being proactive rather than reactive. If you're headed toward burnout and you didn't do anything about it, then there it is. But instead, if you're proactive and you see if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not engaging in interests and hobbies and loved ones and friends and all the things that make our life happier.
And I'm assuming you are recommending to avoid burnout instead of going into burnout and trying to get out of burnout. Yes? Is it easier to avoid it?
If you how to avoid, if we say avoid it as in sweeping it onto the carpet, that avoidance, no.
Right.
But we want to address it so that we say, okay, I'm headed this way. What do I need to do to protect myself?
Yeah, because let's give some examples. Let's say a caregiver is just going through hell. Everything's going wrong. The loved one is in one of those moods, not treating her well, not feeling unappreciated, unloved, on everything. When you try to talk to the doctor, they leave you on hold for an hour. And then, the stove breaks and your loved one just spilled all over the place. I mean, would even just going in the bathroom for 5 minutes help?
Sure. We're back to that again. Whatever you find that works for you. If it works for you, I can't emphasize that word enough. That if you're having a nervous breakdown, I don't know if that's so helpful. I'm being facetious.
And sometimes counting to 10 is very helpful, right? Or
it can be. Yes, absolutely.
Any ideas, Debbie?
Oh, I love the focus. Picked up on it earlier too, on what works for you. And as we get older, we do know ourselves better, and we do know what works for us. And I think so often we get this advice: everybody should do X because X is more healthy. But X isn't more healthy for everybody, and in some cases, X is less healthy for some people. And so I really like it that we're not talking about one size fits all, and that we know ourselves what works, and that's where we go.
And be careful.
You say don't should on yourself. The couldas, the shouldas, the wouldas.
Yes, I say that often. I say that expression. I say I don't know how new it is, but it's sort of apropos, which is to say don't should on yourself. So, and be careful that when people say about that advice, well, you ought to do this. And I go, well,
Yes.
wait, just because it works for you doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody.
Yeah. And let's talk about that P word, perfection, because there's a lot of perfectionists out there.
Yes.
Things just have to be perfect. I know my wife is one of those. I'm
Yeah.
always telling her, honey, this world's too good for you. Maybe the next world will be perfect, but you just got to let it go, let it go. And I quote the scripture, Martha, Martha, you are worried about so many things, but only one thing is important.
Right. And I always say about perfection, is it attainable? Every time you think it's attainable, there's even something more perfect. So then I say, so give it up.
In business, we have a saying for that: perfection is the enemy of success.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So instead, choose a different adjective. Instead of perfection, how about acceptable?
Mhm.
Or if I gave you an example and I say, I'm only going to give you one assignment, one task for the whole day. And even that couldn't be perfect, but it would be near perfect because you only have one task to do for the whole day. But that's not life. We're juggling multiple tasks. So then I say, so could all of them be perfect? And I always go toward the ludicrous for you to say, well, that's not. So then give up perfection because it's just not attainable. So you're seeking acceptance. I'm going to do the best I can in each one of those tasks, but I have to balance it over multiple tasks.
Yeah. What does it mean when you say the goal wheel?
Okay. So the goal wheel, I'm probably not the only one to come up with it, but it's taking your life and dividing it up into aspects. So I came up with 8 things because if you had a circle and you divided it up into eighths, and I came up with 8 different aspects of our life from marital or significant relationship, work, family, friends, spirituality, health and fitness, interests and hobbies. And self-improvement. I think that's 8. So if you divide it, you put each of those in each spoke of the goal wheel, then with each one of those you would attach goals, short and long-term goals. And so you'd say, well, gee, if you took a look at work, you'd say, well, work takes the most amount of area. Shouldn't work takes the most amount of time? And you go, well, yeah, it takes the most amount of time, but you say work shouldn't be the end all be all.
Yeah.
But there's hopefully more to life than just work. But I always say, in Western culture, oftentimes if we're asked who we are, we tend to answer that by our occupation. So that's our sole identity. But in Eastern cultures, oftentimes if you ask somebody who they are, they'll ask back, in what context are you asking? I'm more than what I do for work.
Mm.
I'm a husband, I'm a wife, I'm a parent, I'm a wannabe tennis player, or wannabe guitar player, whatever it is. I'm more than just in one aspect. I'm not one-dimensional.
Debbie, you got anything?
I love that. I love that idea. I think that's a great idea. I think next time someone asks me that, I'm going to ask, but I answer different things every time because it depends what I'm feeling like I am right then. Am I an author? Am I a former mayor? Am I mom? Yeah, you're right. We are multidimensional. And I'm curious about what made you write your book. What made you write a book about clinicians and how to stay balanced? It sounds like what motivated you there.
Okay, so when I graduated and I got my licenses, and they said, Steve, you can now practice. You can begin seeing clients. And I go, oh, this is a scary thought. The medical model says something like, thou shalt do no harm. Well, I know with the clients I saw, I didn't do any harm, but I was wondering how effective I was with those. And I said, well, it took me about 3 years before I found my hitch and felt confident and competent. And I said, well, gee, if I had those thoughts and those feelings from my graduate school, I wonder if that was a common feeling. And I began when I was working with the federal government in their employee assistance program. I had fellow clinicians I could ask, and I had poll questions. I said, so did you have the same feeling? And the answer was, yeah. I said, well, how long did it take you? About 3 years. I go, why didn't graduate schools prepare us? And so I began researching. I said, nobody's ever written a book like this. And so that was my impetus of providing confidence and competence. I began writing the book, and then I talked about the chaotic world. I'm a news junkie, and I was hearing things on the news that said, if I don't write this book in the manner that I want to, I'll regret it. So I was threading social issues and threading it with psychology and counseling, and bridging.
So is it just for clinicians, or can a non-clinician get anything out of this book?
I think non-clinicians have gotten things out of it because they was kind enough to give me reviews on Amazon, and that's what they said was this book is really inspirational, motivational, no matter what field you're in. It's a humanistic story.
Because you're helping clinicians treat their patients. So when a patient reads it, they're getting rid of the middleman. You're directing them, helping them directly.
Exactly. Because one of the things I do in the book is I help people with how to help marital couples by offering them, how to help giving them tools.
Tools in their tool belt. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So we're of the same age group, and I'll say, I'm saying to a client, I say, I'm going to date myself, but once upon a time, there was a game called the Newlywed Game. And I tell them what the Newlywed Game is, and I say, so if your spouse or your significant other was in a soundproof booth, how accurate would you be in predicting their answers to a set of questions? Yeah. And then I'll say, so it's all about connecting with your significant other. So when the two of you are apart, that's what you're going to do. Is you're going to pose questions that you don't think you know the answer, or I think I do, but I'm not sure. Then when you're together, you're going to say, how accurate am I in predicting your answers? And it's all about bonding exercises.
That's why that game was so funny to watch, because they're newlyweds, so they got a lot to learn. Take a game, the older weds, the 50-year-old marriages, and see how well they know each other. They probably win the game. Well, listen, we've come up to the bottom of our time together. So why don't you let people know how they can get a hold of you, how they can get the book, how they can answer questions? You have an email or website, or what?
I have it all. Yes. So they can order my book any way that they order books: Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's available online. Yes, I have a website. It's Stephen, STEVENMELMAN, psychotherapist, psychotherapist.com. I also even give you my telephone number because it's in the book. And so I ask people for feedback. Very good.
So, Debbie, how can people reach you and learn more about what you do as a former mayor?
Well, look for the Debbie Peterson Integrity 101 series on Amazon, and you'll find a whole lot of books that may help you dealing with your local situation.
Cool. And remember, everybody, that all our live shows become recorded and video casts on all your favorite platforms. My #1 best-selling book, It's Your Life Too, How to Survive and Thrive as a Caregiver, is available wherever books are sold, and also on my free membership website, caregiverdave.com, where you can also schedule a free 30-minute initial coaching call and talk about whatever you're struggling with. Also on Facebook, Caregiver Dave, 34,000 caregivers. And we have lots of tools, resources, videos, this radio show, and much, much more. If you click the like or follow button on whatever platform you're on, it helps Google reach even more caregivers. Again, a big thank you, all my listeners out there. Thank you, guys. And for all the people who tune in every week and make us the #1 caregiver podcast on the internet. So until next week, same time, same channel. God richly bless you all. Bye-bye.
Anytime we suffer loss, we grieve. And a lot of people don't realize what even the grief process is. But it could be 5 to 7 steps ranging from denial, I don't believe this is happening, anger, oh my gosh, I'm so upset this is happening, to a form of bargaining, how can I get out of this, to depression, which is a very serious thing because that often leads to suicide. And then finally, after you realize you have no more control over your situation and you're totally okay with the new normal that it brings, that wonderful, wonderful place called acceptance.
it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again.